All right, so we have these three rows that are live in the database. One of them we inserted using JPA through a RESTful API and posting to that RESTful API. The other two we created by just doing a regular insert. Now we'd like to be able to retrieve the information from the database. So to do that, we can go back to our repository. To our service, and just like there was a save. Just like there's a save boilerplate function that allows you to create and insert in a database, there's also a boilerplate to be able to retrieve all of them. Right? These are all very common use cases, right? Be able to save, update, delete, find me one by primary key, and find me all of them. That's another use case, right? If you want to go beyond those use cases, we'll have to create specific other types of query, right? So, and we'll do that a little later. So now let's go retrieve all users, right? So for instance, what we'd like to be able to do is return here a list of users, right? Now this list of users, we're going to find them. We're going to retrieve all of them, right? So we're going to use find all. Oops. All right, so to do that, what we're going to do is that we're going to use the user repository, and you'll notice that there's a function here that allows you to retrieve all of them, find all. Right, that's just the equivalent of just saying select star from user, all of them. Right. Now this let's import lists here. Now this find all. It'd be nice if we could just return this. The thing is that the data type that the user repository returns is an iterable data type. Okay, so we're going to cast it like this. All right, so let's try it out. We're going to have to map it. Right, we'll map it to a get URL. So we'll say get mapping, and we'll map it to the same exact URL API user. Again, following the naming convention of RESTful APIs. There we go. Right, so let's restart the server. All right, so let's so now I don't need Postman to generate a get, right? I can just generate a get just with a from a no. There we go. Here from just a regular tab. So this will be localhost API user returns the all the objects, right, that we had inserted initially: Alice, Bob Dylan, and Charlie Brown. Okay. Right. Again, all already formatted as a JSON data type. All right. Now, how easy is that? The other very common use case is that we want to retrieve an individual object, right? Individual. If we know their primary key, we like to be able to retrieve just one. So let's do that, and we can just copy this, right? And call it perhaps something like findUserById, right? And findUserById. Would take as argument the ID of the user that we want to retrieve the information from, right? And we like to be able to receive that user ID right here, user ID, right? So we're gonna parse the path parameter from the URL using path variable, and the variable name that we want to parse is the user ID, and we want to map it to that UID parameter. Okay, and then instead of retrieving all of them, instead what we want to do is just find one of them. Just find one, right, by primary key, and we'll pass the primary key UID. Now, find one only returns one, right? It doesn't return many of them. So instead of returning a list of users, this should return just a user, one single user. There we go. So find one just returns one, right? So let's restart the server, and let's play around with being able to retrieve one single object. All right, that's done. So notice that the API is very similar. We just need to provide just one of these IDs. So if we say 3, right, hopefully it just returns Charlie Brown, right, or returns Bob Dylan, or returns Alice. Okay, there we go. So we're able to create the 2 finders, the most common finders that you would need to that you would need, right, to operate either on a single object or in a multiple list of objects. Right. So now we would like to be able to do other things, like for instance, being able to filter things, right? Maybe by username, or maybe we're going to filter by username and password, and we're going to send those information over the wire as a query string, or folks that have were born between a date range, or folks that make a particular level of salary or whatever, right? And typically, again, based on the RESTful API, typically we would pass those filters as query parameters, right, as opposed to path parameters. Okay. So let's look at that next.